Look, we were just talking about so many stars. Giannis Antetokounmpo was one of the names that they just brought up there. And Giannis is Giannis, and he does exactly what we expect from him. 1920 Defensive Player of the Year, leader of the best team of the regular season for 2 consecutive seasons, and of course, the front runner for back-to-back MVPs. But how do you translate those achievements into titles? You need a squad. Ask any of the greats, LeBron, Magic, MJ. They all did it with a team around them. So enter the conversation, the pressure that's now on the second option, which is Khris Middleton.
As we approach crunch time in the NBA, one of the biggest questions is whether or not the Milwaukee Bucks will be able to transfer their regular season dominance into postseason success. Whilst we can all agree that Giannis Antetokounmpo will inevitably do what he does, it's when you bring up the other guys on the roster that people start doubting their chances. This has been a particularly common thread when it comes to Khris Middleton, whose ability to function as Milwaukee's second star seems to have been put in constant question throughout the Greek Freak's rise to power. Well, in terms of the regular season, it's fair to say he's answered that question. Middleton has been outstanding this season, averaging career highs in a number of categories whilst playing less minutes per night than he had in the previous 4 seasons. Most impressively, he's averaged over 20 points a night on almost 50-40-90. The only players this decade to shoot more efficiently whilst averaging over 20 points per game are Steph Curry, 2015-16, and Kevin Durant, 2012-13. As the second star of his team, Middleton averaged more points a night than his counterparts on 9 of the 12 other teams with a positive record, and in many cases even averaged more than their top scorers. To only recognise his scoring is to do him a disservice. As the man often tasked with locking down some of the league's best players, he's been an essential factor in Milwaukee's top-rated defence, and he happens to lead his non-Greek teammates for defensive rebounds. However, as we know, the regular season and the postseason are two very different beasts. Despite the Bucks advancing, Middleton's shooting and scoring took a massive hit in the first 2 games. The second game was a particular low point as he recorded just 2 points from 8 field goal attempts over 31 minutes. He did find some form later in the series, but this inconsistency under playoff pressure is a worrying sign for the Bucks. It ramps up the offensive burden on Giannis, whilst also casting doubt on their ability to pull through in the clutch. How many tough series have been defined by make or break shots? Can Middleton be the guy to knock it down when everything depends on it? Whilst the might of Giannis made up for Middleton's shaky start to the playoffs this time, tougher opponents await for the Milwaukee Bucks, and they're going to need their regular season sharpshooter to find some offensive composure if they want to hang another banner.
Man, the Bucks are currently locked into a tense Eastern Conference semi-finals tie with the Miami Heat. And look, the questions are fair from Yanni. I actually can't deny it. Will Khris Middleton be able to elevate his team and help Giannis Antetokounmpo more than anything else to push themselves past the Heat in the second round tie? So, Ovie, I'm going to come to you first because I want you to really break down the second option and the importance of that role, and also whether or not Middleton is good enough to be Giannis' second option.
The second option is huge. Everyone needs their Robin. Every Batman needs the Robin, partner in crime. And Middleton, the consistency, it does worry me. It worries me. I know there's a lot of pressure on him because there's a lot of eyes on Giannis. He's one of the, if not the best player in the NBA. He's definitely top 2. And I feel like Middleton especially is crucial for Giannis. He needs that spacing on the floor, especially because, Giannis is someone who likes to attack the basket. And, they've done a great job of building a team around him, especially with, a stretch 5 and alongside with him and the other wing players that can give him that space to operate on the floor. If he's not making the shots, if he's not, a sharpshooter, if he's not reliable, that does put so much pressure on Giannis. And, even though Giannis will still be effective because he's just that good, the playoffs is not the same. They're definitely going to shrink the paint. And he's going to be having a couple guys thrown at him every time. So it puts them under a lot more pressure when he doesn't show up.
Mo, it's an interesting factor because you kind of look at it and see someone who during the regular season statistically looks fantastic. I mean, you just saw him. He's in an elite club there. He's flirting with the 50-40-90 club one of the names that Yanni left off there is the great Larry Bird. So that shows you the elite company of shooters that he's with. But it is a fair criticism at the same time to say when you're next to a talent like Giannis Antetokounmpo, does he need to step his game up even more than he's shown so far?
Yeah, man, he maybe have been flirting with the 50-40-90 club, but as soon as the playoffs rolled around, the bouncer at the front door said, "Sorry, mate, not tonight." Off you go. How are you going from 50% from the field to
You
36%
can't
from
do
the field?
that.
How are you going from 90% from the free throw line to 65% from the
Rude.
free throw line? He
Oh
looked
my
at his
god.
creps and said, "Sorry, mate, only smart shoes in here tonight." That's what he said to Khris Middleton when he came to the playoffs.
Oh
In that
my
first
god.
round, if he continues playing like he played in that first round, the Bucks are in big trouble. Those levels of efficiency are what helped the Bucks to this crazy level of efficiency we've seen on both ends of the floor. But I don't know if it's a mental thing because this isn't the first time you've seen it to happen to him. It happened last year and the year before. Somehow, when the postseason rolls around, I don't know whether it's a coaching thing and Coach Budenholzer failing to make adjustments and put him in the right roles, or whether it's a personal thing for himself. But he just doesn't seem to be the same player when the postseason rolls around. And it's really intriguing to me whether he'll be able to shake that off and get back to doing what he does best, because he's had a great regular season, or if he's going to, continue a downhill kind of slope, especially up against the team that they're currently playing, which has great wing defenders as well. So, I don't know if it's a mental thing that he needs to figure out, and it's like a challenge he needs to overcome just within his mind, because he's definitely got the talent to be that second guy. He's done it in the regular season. We've seen him in the regular season, and especially when he plays against Boston, he turns into Michael Jordan. And if he can just do that when they play against every other team in the league, then the Bucks are in good hands. But he seems to have some vendetta against my team, so I know better than anyone how great Khris Middleton can truly be.
I'm telling you, this show is it just throws up so many spanners every week. I mean, we've seen Meg Thee Stallion references, and now we've seen a bouncer turn around and tell Khris Middleton he can't come to the club. Yes, BJ. I just want to ask you: is there pressure on this All Star? I mean, like, signed that big contract. I mean, 178 over 5 years. That comes with a certain level of productivity that needs to be delivered. I mean, how important is he when it comes to Milwaukee's success going forward?
Well, it's very important. And obviously, we all see that this young man is very talented. However, there's a glaring weakness that he has in this game, and that's his inability at this point of his career to play off of the dribble consistently, because that is a huge part of the game. As the pressure builds, especially in the playoffs, you have to have that ability, especially if you're going to be counted on as the number two guy to be able to play and create off the dribble. That's the first thing. His game kind of more or less reminds me of Klay Thompson. He can catch and shoot. He's very efficient. And the young man can knock down open shots. It seems in the playoffs, whenever Eric Bledsoe doesn't play or doesn't play well, we seem to magnify Khris Middleton because Bledsoe is another ball handler, another person that can distribute the ball and get him the ball how he likes it, because Bledsoe creates the tempo of the game. I saw last night playing against Miami, they miss Eric Bledsoe. And I think Khris Middleton, more than any other player, probably game suffers the most because they don't have another ball handler out there that puts more pressure on him to do other things. And then when he's not making shots, which is difficult, Jimmy Butler and all of these players that he'll see in the playoffs, they're much better defenders than you'll see, consistent defenders than you'll see in the regular season. So I think we understand that. I think this league understands what he's really good at and what he's not. And they try to put pressure on him and force him to do something that he's just not, as capable of doing as some of the other players, and which is he doesn't play with the ball as much as some of the other players that you see in the league.
Ovie, I watched him have a sort of a bad series against the Orlando Magic, and now he's getting a chance to reverse that narrative. You see how that's played out in game one against Miami. How can he elevate his game? Because, look, we all seen the question mark that is in the league. Giannis Antetokounmpo still is going to be entering free agency, not this summer, but next summer. So he's going to be looking at Middleton, whether he's looking at him as a teammate now, but he's going to be looking at him, is this someone that I can win a championship with?
He needs to have a short-term memory, man. He's really got to have a short-term memory, and just be ready to play the next game. He can't be thinking about free agency or what Giannis is going to be doing. That's just going to put more pressure on him than I'm sure he already has. So he really just needs to, forget about the last series. It's all about survival at this point in the playoffs. Survive in advance, that's the name of the game. However you can, and if he's not having a good shooting night, he still needs to find a way, if he is a legitimate number two, to still put his print on the game. You know, he still has to be able to affect the game if he can be relied on. And, you know, whether that be doing things that he's not normally accustomed to doing just to help the team get over the hump, that's what he needs to do. But it's all about winning at this point.